You're right, all. So I've just returned from Cheshire within the last couple of hours. I went to meet Merseyside police halfway between Derby and Liverpool, which of course will be Cheshire. I've had my memory card, SD card from the day where that tragic event happened with the car incident, and they've returned it to me. All the data intact, everything's on there as you'd expect. So for all those who've been saying you can't trust the police, you'll never see that SD card again. Well, I suppose you need to do a U-turn on that suspicion, really, because within half the amount of time they said they were going to return it to me, they have. So when they took it off me and gave me the reference number, they said 7 days and you'll have it back. It's now 3.5 days and I've had it back. So I think the police and the emergency services need a lot of credit for the work they've done. You may not believe, obviously, there's people. So basically, the video footage, I watched the video footage that I took. So as I say, I didn't realise it, but I caught the ambulance that vehicle was following. So the ambulance went through the crowds first because I must have thought that's weird, and then filmed it. And then I don't know, 10 seconds later, it caught. No, in fact, it'd be a bit longer. It'd be a little bit longer, but because I was filming the crowds afterwards, so the crowds were coming up, and then obviously the next footage that we'll see at some point soon, is the crowd. A couple of lads running after the vehicle as it passes through. You can't see the driver's side for anyone who's still speculating about that because it's in between people. I stood on steps, but obviously people's height is obviously blocking the window view. But it is just an unfortunate sequence of events, no matter what. And I also got off the steps and followed the incident up and continued on. At the time, I won't deny it, I thought it was a car ramming a piece, shall we call it. That was my initial suspicions. That's the thing, it's all seems to be unfolding now. And I've got to say, so the way I see it is with the video footage, I am going to post it. Because the reason being, one, within hours, I was by 10, 11 o'clock, I was sat inside a hotel lobby because I was going to be homeless for the night. And I was sat with some Irish lads having a chat and a drink about it. And they showed me some horrendous video footage on WhatsApp where it's already circulating. There's the one from like an aerial view and there's someone gets sent flying by this vehicle. And that to me is much more horrific than the footage I've got. It's just... and also, the main reason that I'm going to post it is because there's so many YouTube channels, there's so many comments on these YouTube channels that think it was like a fake event, it was a psyop, it was a false flag, it was there was crisis actors, it was all orchestrated. Bit of common sense, I don't mean to be rude, because I do respect why you'd think that after 9/11 and COVID and stuff. I do respect and understand and appreciate where you're coming from, because I probably would have been in a similar boat had I not been there on the ground. So this footage I will post soon will cement that this wasn't a false flag or a psyop or anything like that, at least from the victim side. I don't know about the driver's side. I don't think it is. I think the police have got it right. It seems quite a simple case to me. But, you must believe that hundreds of people on Water Street were all crisis actors, and I must be a plant that happened to be there filming it for the purpose of psychologically manipulating you or whatever. I don't patronise you or anything like that. But when you see it that way and you'll see in the footage, there's people coming up distraught, distressed. There's people in the distance from the emergency services I'll add as well. So the emergency services are obviously dealing with people already injured, and possibly unconscious. And there are members of the emergency services also being treated as well. On the emergency services, they haven't been given enough credit, in my opinion, so I'm going to do it now. So Merseyside Police, I apologise for ever speculating that, the footage would be retained and not returned. I really do apologise for that. This was partly... I'm not going to blame other people, but I did kind of ask a couple of scousers in the area, do you trust the police, the Merseyside Police, after Southport last year as well. And some said, yeah, this seems sound, and other people said, no, you'll never see that memory card back again. So I don't know what to believe. I'm not from the area, but the dealings I've with you, you've been completely professional, and I can't fault you at all. So going back on it, you had the incident itself. So fair enough for dealings with the car. Obviously, I don't know who's at fault there. That he ended up in that area in the first place. I don't know. But what I do know is, you imagine if you were some 5'2" female, 60 kilogram police officer, and you've been told, right, you need to charge into that crowd full of angry football fans who are already intoxicated anyway, all kicking off and trying to get into this vehicle to grab hold of the individual inside driving it. You've got to surround it, hold these people back, and then also, from both genders and whatever age range, you've also got to see people injured. You've got to see children injured, and you've got to deal with that. You might have families and children yourself. I'm sure people always forget that the emergency services are also affecting all this as well. There might well be 79 victims from members of the public and a few emergency service members, but you've also got the fact that there's members of the emergency services who will have also been in shock afterwards and trying to take it all in, and I'm sure some of them will be slightly dazed from everything they've seen, and massive respect, really. And also the same can be said for the NHS, despite obviously the COVID stuff a couple of years ago and my opinions on that, and I can't fault you on what you did on that day. You're in there with the police. The police had obviously created a cordon for you, because the way it goes is you have to confirm an incident or an area, then you have to get in there, firm, clear, cordon control, the 4 C's. So they have to get in there, confirm it, they've had to clear the area, which is extremely difficult because you've got intoxicated fans, you've got people being generally quite difficult, which, to be fair, you will see in the footage, is people who kept going back and they had to get cleared again and again, and sort of got warned, you're going to get arrested if you don't do this, which is fair enough. And eventually they cleared the people down, away onto the Strand or up towards the Town Hall, in order to potentially call in a helicopter, which is, I think they did try to, I don't know if they did, I think they might have done. So you've got that. You've got all of that to contend with, and they did a fantastic job, in my opinion. People will think differently, that's fine. But from my perspective, you've got your own opinions on the police. But what I saw of that day in Merseyside, I have respect for the emergency services, particularly obviously the police and the ambulance service, who were the main people that I saw. I can't really remember seeing the fire service. I'm sure they must have been around somewhere, but particularly the police and the ambulance services, they was first on scene, getting on with it. And for all the criticism they get, I think they need remembering for what they did on that day. Moving on, obviously my own personal experience on the Strand, they came over to me, they said, started chatting, and we hear you've got footage and will you be willing to share it with us? And I was, at the time, I won't deny it, I was quite suspicious. I thought, maybe I should be retaining this data, and I have thought that for the last couple of days, but any suspicions, any speculation I've had have been completely squashed today. And I think anyone who's been also adding to my speculations, well, there's some proof for you that, that they held true to their word. In fact, they did better than their word, and they've returned it with all the data intact. And as I say, they even offered to drive all the way to Derby to meet me to give it to me. So from there, when I was in the back of the van, they gave us a reference number. They offered me a bottle of water numerous times, because there was different officers that came and went as we were dealing with things outside. They're just generally very professional, I think. And I was released after an initial witness statement on time, within a reasonable amount of time, with the intentions of allowing me to get to the train station should I needed to have gone home. Almost as it turned out, that was impossible, because the train station was just a big red wall of fans trying to squeeze through in an enormous queue back onto the trains to go wherever they're going. So obviously there was a night on the floor at Liverpool Lime Street later on. But it has to be mentioned, walking back up Water Street, no, sorry, not Water Street, it was one of the streets to the side which wasn't cordoned off. I have to hand it to the police officers again, because there was, again, drunk people, intoxicated people, shoving their fingers in the police, you're stopping us and there's all these immigrants coming here. And don't be wrong, I share similar opinions, and at the time, I also wondered if it was a car ramming a piece as well. And but to the point, the abuse the police were having to put up with on some of them cordons, of people who are drunk and shouting, and they did well to hold their tempers after everything they'd been through and everything they'd seen that day. So yeah, again, I can only respect Merseyside Police and their ambulance service, and no doubt the fire service and the guy who flew the helicopter in. So there's that. I won't say any more really on that. I think that's about it. Obviously, I won't comment on necessarily what's going on from the driver's side, because I don't know. I don't disrespect anyone who speculates things after everything that's happened over the last 30 odd years, or in particular over the last 10 years or 5 years. But the reason why, as I say, why I will post the footage that I've got, is it just dismisses any theories that this was all fate and that it was a staged event. I mean, as I say, you'd have to literally cordon off Water. If you believe it's like being cordoned off like a movie set, so you'd have to cordon off Water Street, get hundreds of crisis actors in place ready on time, and then set an ambulance off and then set a vehicle off, and also it just doesn't really marry up. I think it genuinely was just a really, really unfortunate sequence of events. The timing was unbelievable. It's so unfortunate, the timing as well, because as you'll see in the video footage, the crowds were coming up en masse at the time because the bus had been past the Strand, and obviously people said, right, that's the bus gone now, we're going to go back up the hill into town. And obviously that was the moment that it all unfolded as the fans reached the top of the hill. Make about what you will. If you want to add further speculation to that, it's up to you, but that's what I saw. What a weird event from my from my walk as well. I was in a cafe with a lady and her family probably about 10 minutes before it all happened, and they were soon to rush out because they were aware they were tracking the bus on their phones, I think, so they were going to make a rush. We were about to get a photo of their family before they went. She said her brother was ex-Royal Marine, and she was a blonde-haired lady. I think I won't specify anymore just in case, don't need to, but that is bizarre. If I happen to be stood next to or talking to and conversing with the sister of the man in question at the minute. Yeah, I think that's about it really. Don't be pressuring me for the footage. It's not right. For to be kind of like looking forward to. It'd be a bit weird to be looking forward to watching the video footage because it's obviously a horrific event that people are still recovering from. But I think it needs to be posted because it will bring to an end speculation about the event. There's enough people been affected by this, and as I say, I think it will just bring to an end any speculation about whether this was real or not. You'll see as all the crowds are coming up towards the top of the town hall, heading up Water Street away from the incident as quickly as possible. It weren't faked. It was, it all happened as you'll see. Also, one final thing I'll add, because I have watched the footage already. You'll see throughout there's numerous people taking videos and photos on iPhones. Someone kicks off with me for holding it, but I've had this situation hundreds of times before. People get upset about SLR cameras and big cameras, but they don't get upset about GoPros, iPhones, Google Glass. There's enough people there taking videos and photos already. So if you're going to have a go at me, you need to have a go at everybody else and have a go at the people who've already shared that footage online, right from the beginning of people punching and kicking a car, right down to the horrendous footage of people getting flung in the air, and rammed into. So, I think I've said what needed to be said. If I took a photo of you on that day, I will work around to sending it over to you, because obviously people. I was there to obviously photograph the day. I wasn't there to happen to be amongst all this unfortunate event. So, that's it.